Texas baseball salvages the series against Kansas State. Softball ends Oklahoma's 40-game winning streak. Round 1 of the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and women's tennis brings home a win in Waco. All this and more on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome to College Press Box. I'm your host, Emme Basnett. We've got a great show for you today. We'll start by heading over to Toynton Stadium for some baseball highlights from this past weekend. Top of the second, Skylar Messenger singles right up the middle with Ardwan on second and Murphy Staley on third. Ardwan scores and Murphy scores. Texas up 2 runs on Kansas State. Top of the fourth, redshirt sophomore Silas Ardwan from Louisiana homers to left field. Texas now up 3 on the Wildcats, another point from Ardwan. Kansas State looking to respond here, and they will. Dylan Phillips up to bat with the homer to center field at the bottom of the fourth. Wildcats find themselves on the scoreboard, but still trailing by 2 runs. Top of the 5th inning, the sophomore from Houston, Texas, Dylan Campbell increases that Texas lead as he hits a homer to left field. 4-1 Texas. He runs right on in there, securing that pretty steep Texas lead. Douglas Hoda III up to bat, echoing his teammate Campbell by hitting a near twin homer to left center field. Texas is starting to get a comfortable lead here with plenty of game still left to play. Bottom of the 6th, Dylan Phillips up to bat, homers to left field, earning the Cats another point on the board, but still far behind those Longhorns. Cole Johnson at bottom of the 6th at bat with Mitchell on second. Singles it up the middle, giving Justin Mitchell enough breath to slide in there and get the point for Texas State. Now well within their comeback as Texas leads 5-3. Jeff Henrick continues the comeback with a home run to left field. It's a ball game now, 5-4 Texas. Wildcats looking to continue this streak. They're about to send none other than Dylan Phillips up to bat. Reached on a fielder's choice to shortstop. Johnson advances to third base due to a throwing error right here on Texas. Nikoloff scores, 5-5, tie ball game. This is Goodwin up to bat. He strikes out. Goodwin with bases loaded. Phillips and Johnson score. Wildcats now lead Horns by 3 runs. Staley right here looking to respond, but he strikes out swinging the game, and Kansas State celebrate their win over Texas 8-5. I am now lucky to be joined with our baseball analyst, Jason Kinander. Jason, thanks so much for stopping by.
Anytime, I'm glad to be here.
Texas came into this series expecting a series win, and as we saw, that did not happen, and possibly even a sweep against the last-place Wildcats. Jason, tell us what went wrong here.
Well, in games 1 and 2, basically everything went wrong, and Texas came out flat. In game 1, the Longhorns led for most of the game. They controlled most of the game. First 5 innings, they led 5-1. Ace Pete Hansen was dealing, been one of the greatest pitchers in all of college baseball. But it went all downhill from there for the Longhorns. They surrendered 7 unanswered runs in the 6th and 7th inning. The Longhorns bullpen continued to struggle, as it has for the majority of the season. And although 7 of those runs were attributed to Hansen, Jared Southard had every opportunity to strand the inherited runners in the 7th inning and could not get the job done. It was a similar story in game 2 as Tristan Stevens, another one of those ace-type pitchers for Texas, didn't have his best stuff, but pitched well enough for Texas to stay in the game. Yet again, Texas's bullpen struggled with their inherited base runners as Coy Cobb this time came on, allowed 2 inherited runners to score in the 7th inning. LeBaron Johnson gave up 3 runs in the 8th inning, which practically sealed the deal. Texas just looked unmotivated in the first 2 games. They committed 3 errors. All 3 of those errors led directly to Kansas State runs, and this was just a weird series for David Pierce's group. You would have thought Texas could have handled business in Manhattan, especially fresh off a series win against TCU last weekend. But between Texas's aces hitting rough patches, shoddy defense, and the struggling bullpen, this series was just all around ugly for Texas.
Yeah, it was a really big disappointment for Texas going in expecting a win. Sitting at 6-6 now in conference play, Texas's regular season Big 12 championship hopes are on life support. However, this team is clearly still good enough to make a run in Omaha like they did last season. What should Texas hope to accomplish in the final month of conference play?
Well, you're definitely right. The Big 12 regular season championship hopes are indeed on life support, which might actually be for the better for Texas. Texas is always going to play to win, but being likely out of the Big 12 championship picture, at least for the regular season, can allow Texas's focus to shift to preparing their guys for the postseason. The Longhorns' biggest weakness this season has been their pitching depth. Tanner Witt, their number 3 starter, went down with a torn UCL after just one start this season. That was a brutal blow for Texas. He was set to be their Sunday starter, played a massive role as a super reliever last season down the stretch. The Longhorns have struggled to find an apt replacement for Witt, so giving young pitchers these reps, these big innings in semi-big and high-leverage spots could help Pierce get his bullpen in line down the stretch. One name that has drastically improved throughout the season is Lucas Gordon. The Sunday starter has progressed so well throughout the season. He doesn't have the most electrifying stuff, but his control is excellent. Gordon has walked just 13 batters in 43 innings. Luke Harrison has been another big revelation for the Longhorns, as a true freshman has stepped into a massive late inning role for Texas and has excelled. He's allowed just 5 runs in 21 innings and is yet to allow a home run this season. So giving pitchers like Gordon and Harrison more innings in high leverage spots down the stretch will certainly help condition them for the postseason run.
Yeah, what you're saying about Witt, that was a big blow to this Texas team. You just highlighted 2 pitchers that will play a big role down the stretch. Now let's hear one under-the-radar name in the Longhorns lineup that can serve as an X factor through the final month of conference play.
So one player that I believe is going to play a crucial role both in the lineup and in the locker room is shortstop Trey Feltini. Feltini served as a spark plug of sorts for Texas during their postseason run last year, but will now be tasked with being a primary run producer in the Longhorns lineup. And Feltini's power stroke has been there this season. His 10 home runs are twice as many as his previous season high. His slugging percentage, .567, is nearly 200 points higher than last season's mark. His defense has to improve, though. Feltini made a really big error in Game 1 of the series, as his 591 fielding percentage is among the lowest on the team, and at a position like shortstop, incredibly crucial for that glove to be slick. His 8 errors are pacing him to surpass his previous season high, but he is one of the biggest leaders on the Texas team. As was evident this past weekend, there was a benches clearing incident in Game 2 of the series, and Feltini was right in the middle of it, rounded up his guys. He will need to continue to be a vocal leader in the locker room and on the field for this Texas team that's really reeling midway through conference play. His explosive style of play has served as a jolt for Texas in years past, but this season is Trey Feltini's turn to step into a role as a primary run producer and difference maker down the stretch of the season.
So what I'm hearing is Trey Feltini and upgrade that pitching game.
Absolutely.
Thank you, as always, for joining us tonight, Jason. When we return to College Press Box, we will be joined by our softball analyst, Carter Yates. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to College Press Box. Softball had a historic weekend in Austin by not only delivering Oklahoma its first loss, but the Lady Horns brought in a crowd for the series of over 4,000 people, which marked the largest in Texas program history. With all that being said, now we welcome in our softball analyst, Carter Yates. Thank you so much for joining us, Carter.
Emme, happy to be here tonight.
Okay, so you just had to guess when Texas retired that famous number 8 cat jersey. What was this big win look like for Texas?
Yeah, I mean, so Texas had 1,600 plus fans in the crowd, and you just had to know, like you said, something special is going to happen when they're retiring Kat Osterman's jersey. You know, she had 3 College World Series appearances when she played for the Longhorns. She compiled a 136-25 career record with a .52 ERA. She was also a 3-time National Player of the Year and 2-time ESPY Award winner for the best female college athlete. That energy in the pregame ceremony spilled into the game as Texas snapped number 1 ranked Oklahoma's 40-game win streak in a 4-2 victory. Oklahoma pitcher Jordy Bile is enjoying one of the best seasons in the country, and she's only a freshman. But Texas has the first team all year to put a chink in Bile's armor. The Longhorns racked up 8 hits on the day, which was the most Bile had given up all season, and handed her first loss to bring her record to 16-1 on the year. Texas had their own stellar freshman on Sunday, though, in third baseman Mia Scott, whose double and 3 RBIs with that double marked her 4th game in the last 6 contests with 3 or more RBIs. And all Texas softball fans have their Janae Jefferson tracker out right now. The senior second baseman got another knock on Sunday for her 328th career hit. She's now just 5 hits shy of breaking the Big 12 career hits record. And I think years down the line, we are going to see Jefferson's number 2 jersey hanging in the rafters alongside Osterman's number 8.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. And a large part of this performance can be attributed to the pitching. So what did Texas do well in that area?
Well, look, Texas did lose the first 2 games of the series to drop their first Big 12 conference games of the year, but they were largely expected to get swept by the Sooners. And I know moral victories aren't a thing at Texas, but a positive fans can take away from the series is, other than, snapping Oklahoma's 40-game win streak, is Texas' stellar pitching. Let me tell you something. Haley Dulcini is legit in the pitcher's circle. The Fresno State transfer threw a complete game on Sunday and limited the Sooners to just 2 hits. Dulcini is now 14-5 on the season and has won 10 of her last 12 starts. And Dulcini wasn't the only one who brought it over the weekend. The Texas pitching staff limited a high-powered Oklahoma offense to just .176 batting average and 13 combined hits over the 3-game series. Dulcini pitched a complete game on Friday and gave up only 2 earned runs before stepping right back in on Sunday and giving another outstanding performance. Texas has 2 pitchers in the Big 12 top 10 for ERA. Dulcini is 6th with a 2.37, and Estelle Sheck is right there at number 8 with a 2.82. In her first season since transferring from North Carolina State, Sheck has compiled a 9-1 record while both starting and coming on in relief for the Longhorns. Sophia Simpson's another name to watch out for. She's having an outstanding freshman year for the Longhorns. She's got a 6-3 record on the season and is 12th in the conference with a 3.40 ERA and is 6th in the conference for earned runs on the year. These players have stepped up for Texas, while junior Shea O'Leary has sort of stepped back in her role. O'Leary was, the freshman pitcher of the year in 2019, but she struggled this season with a 1-3 record and a 5.48 ERA. Look, if O'Leary can get back into form, watch out. This Texas pitching staff will be even more dangerous than we've already seen.
It looks like there's no shortage of talent on that pitching roster. Carter, what is in store for this team going forward, and in specifics, talking about Big 12 play?
Yeah, at this point in the season, the Big 12 is a race between 3 teams. You've got Oklahoma State with an 11-1 record in conference play, led by Texas former dual threat standout Miranda Elish. Man, does it hurt for Longhorns fans seeing Elish tear it up in Big 12 play after transferring from Texas. She's batting .394 in the season, has a 2.23 ERA as a pitcher. Then we've got Oklahoma, who just lost their first game all season to Texas and is number 1 in the country. Finally, you've got Texas, who overcame a sluggish start to the season, but are now 31-12-1 overall, boasting the conference hits leader with Janae Jefferson and a scary pitching lineup that we just ran through. Texas has 3 series left in the tank for the season. In my opinion, they need to go 5-1 or 6-0 in the 2 series against Baylor and Texas Tech. Neither of these teams are on the caliber of Texas. Tech is 21-20 overall, and Baylor's only 2-7 in conference play. Texas already dropped 2-3 to Oklahoma, which means they must win 2 of 3 against Oklahoma State this upcoming weekend. The Cowgirls are 11-1 in the conference this season, but that record is a little inflated considering they haven't faced the Sooners yet. But Oklahoma State is arguably the best defensive team in the conference. They have the best fielding percentage at .982, and their staff ERA is 2nd in the conference at 1.88. Texas' season at this point rides on the series against Oklahoma State coming up this weekend, in fact. And Texas is going to have to go through former standout Elish. Like I just mentioned, Elish is the second best hitter on offense, behind Caitlin Carlisle, who is batting .418, and the second best pitcher on the team behind Kelly Maxwell, who has a 1.04 ERA.
Wow, looks like Texas has their work cut out for them this weekend against those Cowgirls. Thank you, as always, for joining us tonight, Carter. When we return on College Press Box, we will be joined by Tommy Yarrish to talk about the NBA playoffs. Stick around. Welcome back into College Press Box. The first games of the NBA playoffs were this past weekend, and here to break it down some more for us is Tommy Yarrish. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Emmy. We're on the heels of the opening weekend of the NBA playoffs, and it was a wild one. 8 games across 2 days with all 16 teams trying to get the incredibly important first win in the best-of-7 series. Let's take a look at the results so far. Going over to Dallas first, the Mavericks without Luka Doncic in their first game, that might be a problem, but for now, Dorian Finney-Smith hits one of only 9 threes on the night in 32 attempts. Donovan Mitchell now in the second clip gets the finish. He had 32 points to go along with 6 rebounds and 6 assists. Here's Bogdan Bogdanovic for the Jazz. 26 points off 55% shooting from the field for him. And then Maxi Kleber, second three of the game, makes it a 1-point game here. That's huge for Dallas, trying to pull off a steal without their star player. But Royce O'Neal, with his only points of the game in 31 minutes played, would be the dagger. Jazz win at 99-93. Now in Memphis, battle the young guards here early. There's John Morant hanging around in the air for the slam. He finished with 32. On the other end, Anthony Edwards had 36 points in his first ever playoff game. Here's another young guy, Karl Anthony Towns, with a tough poster over Jaren Jackson. He had 29. D'Angelo Russell now is going to start icing the game for the Timberwolves from the outside. He had just 10 points, but that was a big three. And then Patrick Beverley, everyone's favorite opponent, knocks down the nail in the coffin. That's his second three of the night. Minnesota wins game 1, 130-117. In Philadelphia, James Harden, he's going to have to get it going in the playoffs, and he knocks down the first three of the night. He had 4. Tyrese Maxey going to come alive here in this first game for the 76ers. There's one of his 5 threes. For the Raptors, Scotty Barnes going to get on the inside dish from Pascal Siakam with a tough finish. Rookie of the Year candidate had 15. Fred VanVleet goes into James Harden's bag a little bit with a step-back three there. He had 18 with 4 threes, and then Harden, speaking of the devil, the former MVP, threading the needle to Tyrese Maxey there, and then Maxey, saving the best for last, going to pull up from way downtown. That's the exclamation point on his 38-point night. Sixers blow out Toronto 131-111 to start the series. Now in Golden State, Jeff Green gets a nice dime from Nikola Jokic to start things off. Then Jordan Poole taking a page out of Maxey's book, pulling up from way outside. This guy can shoot too. How about Stephen Curry? Had limited minutes, but he had 16 points coming off the bench. And then right back to Poole. This time he wants to pull the trigger from closer to the logo. He led all scorers with 30 on the night, and then Jokic back up the floor. The 6'11 point guard apparently dishes one of his 6 assists to Will Barton for the slam. To close things off, the Warriors running away with this one. Draymond Green puts the exclamation point on things with the and-one layup. Warriors win it 123-107. Now in Miami, Trae Young gets a start in South Beach. One of his few highlights of the night, gets the steal off of Tyler Hero with a tough finish on the other end. How about Duncan Robinson for the Heat? He was a gem in this game 1. That's one of 8 threes there. We'll get to that later. Kyle Lowry coming up here. Robinson starting off the possession. Heat show off their ball movement. Easy 3 for Lowry in the corner. Now, speaking of corner threes, the king of them all, P.J. Tucker, knocks down one and lets the Atlanta bench know about it. Hawks try to put up a late run, and they show they can knock down the corner three, too. Here's DeAndre Hunter. That's 3 of his 14 on the night, but Duncan Robinson in the Heat would be too much. You see Robinson pulling up with a tough three-pointer here. That's 3 of his 27. Heat come out on top 115-91. The game of the weekend, in my opinion, Boston and Brooklyn getting things started. Jaylen Brown on the dime from Marcus Smart throws it down. And keeping things going with the dunks. Al Horford on the dish from Jason Tatum in transition. A few plays later, Kevin Durant going to get involved. He pulls up over 2 defenders, gets the bucket plus the foul. Fast forward to the last minute now. Kyrie Irving threading the needle into the corner for a beautiful 3 from Patty Mills. Now, last minute of the game here, Irving sidestep 3 over the defensive player of the year, Marcus Smart. That's money, but nothing compared to this. Jason Tatum spin move, game winner, blouses. The Celtics take game 1, 115-114. Now the reigning champion Milwaukee Bucks off to a hot start. How about Giannis from beyond the arc? 9-0 run for the Bucks to get things started. Then DeMar DeRozan trying to cut into the Bucks lead a little bit here. A strong mid-range pull-up game, gets his knockdown shot there. A few possessions later, it's Zach LaVine pulling up from the right wing. He dials that one into a single-point game. Into the fourth and out, Alex Caruso and Kobe White on the give and go in the fast break. White makes it a 1-point game, but Milwaukee was unfazed. Brook Lopez gets the and-one there. That would ice the game in the fourth. Milwaukee wins it 93-86. Now in the desert, the Suns pick up steal on one end, spread the floor, and Chris Paul finds Devin Booker in the corner for his fadeaway 3. Phoenix starting to build a lead with the Pelicans fighting around in the second quarter. Brandon Ingram pulls up from the free throw line. That's money. Now in the second half, Jonas Valanciunas showing off that New Orleans fight down low, finishes tough over 3 defenders to cut into the Suns' lead, but the point guard, Chris Paul, would end up being too much for the Pelicans as that 3 was part of his 19 on the night. Suns win it 110-99.
Thank you so much for that, Tommy. When we return, we'll take a look at this last week in Texas sports. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to College Press Box. TSTV's own John Kelley was at the unveiling for the new Moody Center.
Today, officials from the University of Texas and the Oakview Group officially opened the Moody Center. This new facility will house the Texas Longhorn basketball teams, as well as provide a new venue for live entertainment in Austin. The Moody Center boasts nice seating areas, good sightlines, murals by local artists, and a multitude of new food and beverage outlets. The venue will replace the aging Frank Irwin Center, which is set to be demolished sometime soon. Here is the UT Minister of Culture, Matthew McConaughey, discussing his vision for what the Moody Center will become.
I had two goals and hopes for this place. One was to make the first place that every big band, world-class act wants to play on the globe. Two, that it be the last place that any basketball team visiting the University of Texas Longhorns, that it be the last place that they want to play. With the creativity and expertise of a lot of people that I just mentioned and everyone here behind me, I'm happy to say that the Moody Center is engineered, designed, and aligned to do both of those things.
The Moody Center will host John Mayer this Wednesday for its first event and will host several more events throughout the summer. There are still several parts being finalized, however, but the Moody Center will be fully ready for tip-off come basketball season. For the first report of many from the Moody Center in Austin, Texas, I'm John Kelley, TSTV Sports.
Welcome back into College Press Box. This past weekend, the number 4 UT women's tennis team took on the Baylor Bears and secured a 4-3 victory. Allura Zamaripa gave the Longhorns a 2-1 lead by winning a back-to-back set. Number 70, Zaynalova, added to the Zamaparia lead by securing a victory of her own in singles play. The Lady Horns have earned the number 2 seed at the upcoming Big 12 championship game on April 21st in Fort Worth. Elena Lovato returns as the assistant head coach for women's basketball after a year-long hiatus from coaching. Coach Lovato has worked 5 seasons under Vic Schaefer from Mississippi State to Texas, where they developed a strong partnership. Lovato returns to Austin along with her recruiting prowess and head coaching experience for the 2022 to 2023 season. Over the weekend, number 12 men's tennis takes down number 52 Oklahoma State 5-2. Texas won their 5th straight doubles point, followed by singles wins from freshman Pierre-Yves Bailey, junior Chi-Chi Huang, sophomore Micah Braswell, and for the clinch, sophomore Cleve Harper. With this win, Texas heads into the Big 12 championship 15-9 and 3-2 in conference play. Former Longhorn Jordan Spieth takes home the tartan jacket as the RBC Heritage Classic. Spieth was tied with Patrick Cantlay at 13 under par in the 4th round. Both players ended up in bunkers around the green on the first playoff hole, but on the 18th, Spieth hit his saving grace shot out of the sand to secure the par and the win. Spieth's final 4-round score was 271, and he celebrated the victory as his first one as a father. Let's take a look at what we have going on this week in Texas sports. Baseball will play Air Force in Austin starting on April 19th at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday. The 20th, baseball will play their second game against Air Force at 4 p.m. and softball will take on Houston at 7 p.m. On Friday the 22nd, women's tennis will play in the quarterfinals, time TBA. Men's tennis will play in the Big 12 championship, and baseball will face Baylor in Austin at 6:30 p.m. On Saturday the 23rd, men's and women's tennis continue in the Big 12 tournament. Baseball plays their second game against Baylor at 1 p.m. Football will partake in that annual orange and white game at 6 p.m. And softball will play Oklahoma State at 6:30 p.m. at Oklahoma. On Sunday, baseball will finish the series against Baylor at 1 p.m. And also at 1 p.m., softball will round it off against Oklahoma State. That'll wrap up things for this week's episode of College Press Box. Make sure to tune into our other shows this week, including College Crossfire on Wednesday and 1-0 Sports on Friday. On behalf of all the crew here at TSTV, I'm Emme Basnett. Thank you for joining us, and have a good night.